So like I get this a lot, or I remember this. This was one thing for Steve and I. We were a young family, and we meet Jesus, meet Jesus like we saw him in a doorway. But anyway, so people talked to us about, all of a sudden, our pastor stood up and talked about tithing, or we heard about generosity, and we're like, well, what is tithe? Like I looked it up, and I didn't know how to. I'm like, that's not how I would spell tithe.
Is it tithe like you wash clothes with?
Yeah, right. So it's like I literally remember that, like looking in the Bible for that word, and I was like, it looks like tithe to me. And so anyway, and I remember like we looked at it. It's like, okay, we first heard it, and then, well, we barely have enough money, or we don't have money to meet our bills, or like, okay, maybe you could tithe, but you can't give extra. So tithe is like, oh, we're supposed to do that, but then give more money. So like all those layers. So when someone hears the word tithe or being generous, like what would you say to them? They've never heard that before. Right. They don't have that concept.
Well, tithe is not dues. And if anything, people have either never given any money outside of, will you round up to $1 more for the children's hospital?
Right.
And then you're a little mad that I wasn't prepared to give $1. So you go into that mode.
And you feel bad because you're like saying no to children. I feel all the time.
I know, so I'm like,
I can't even not do the Humane Society for the dogs. I'm like, oh God, the dog is gonna not make it this week.
Well, and then you go, what kind of person am I?
Yes, yes.
So that's kind of you have people that's where they've been asked to give money, and it created a knee-jerk reaction of, how dare you put me on the spot?
Yeah.
Or we have people who maybe they gave their dues at church, which could be $5 a week or $20, for the people who had more money. And it's like a due, and tithing isn't a due. It's not like your Costco membership. It's not like admission into church. However, the Bible talks about for the church to operate, which the Bible talks about the storehouse is the church. And what a storehouse is, we're in Wisconsin, the big granaries. It's where the food is stored for the winter. Once it's finished and we've hayed or we've combined, it's in the storehouse. And the animals come all year long. They have consistency. They have a place to always come to be fed. And it's a spiritual feeding that the storehouse of the local church does. We spiritually feed people. If people didn't give to the storehouse, which is the only way the church operates, there is no government grant, there is no requirement that anybody give money to the church. So it's actually a miracle in itself. So the tithe is a miracle that God speaks to people, and there are enough people that go, I'm gonna do this, without being forced. That's a miracle that God has spoken directly to someone. He obviously spoke to you and Steve because you did it. You didn't do it because you said, well, I like that guy and he makes me do it. You went, okay, I don't fully understand and this is scary, but I'm gonna do it because God spoke to you. You knew you should, and the Bible says to. You gave, the church operates, it grows, it expands all over the world. The local church is the hope of the world. A church in Southern California, although we can watch some stuff online, it is not spiritually doing the same thing in Green Bay in the 920 that we are, and the other churches in the 920. It's only supported on the tithe. And the tithe is the first 10%. And because it's going to God through the church, the first is the best. It's the best. It's not giving my leftovers. Back in the biblical times, it wasn't going out to the field and seeing what crops were spoiled, which had bugs, and then saying, here, God. That's what they were talking about in the Bible. It was going and getting your best fruit, your best vegetables, your best wheat, and the stuff you could get the most money for, you actually were giving to God. That's why it was the first. And now all of our dollars look the same, but it's a priority issue. And if I give my first dollars before I get gas or buy a pack of gum, it's still the concept of the first. And every time you do it in the right order, you won't run out at the end. Thank you so much for watching our video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for new videos every week.